There were two main questions for the foreign fighter. Where's my weapon? Where's the enemy?
Who are your soldiers? Where do they come from? What age ranges are they?
The priority was given ex-militaries.
And these were men from how many countries, would you say?
Well, roughly 30, 40 countries.
Can you tell us about their motivation?
I tell you guys, we are bloody idealists here in Ukraine.
And Jake and I were just discussing the casualty figures, well over 1 million casualties on the Russian side.
There's a war lost on the Russian side.
Do you really see the Americans as a partner in this or as a partner for the other side?
I need you to understand that I will be diplomatic in answering that.
I was out here last summer with a Royal Marine friend of mine. We're both multiple veterans of Afghanistan, and we said we've never seen war. This is war. What was it actually like on the front line for your troops?
Bloody, dirty, freezy, etc. Well, this American gentleman asked me the simple question, Commander, where is fucking our fire support? And my reply was, you've been to Afghanistan? Yes, sir. You fought Taliban? Yes, sir. Now you're fucking Taliban.
Wait, but there are some very loud voices. Tucker Carlson, for example, who seems to be articulating Russian propaganda to a vast audience.
It is worrying and disturbing. This means that the problem is much deeper than just Tucker Carlson.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on The Brink for a special episode recorded here in the war-torn Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, in collaboration with the local television station, Channel 24. I'm Jake Wallace-Simons.
And I'm Andrew Fox. To mark the 4th anniversary of Vladimir Putin's invasion, we've travelled here overland from Poland to bring you a sense of the Ukraine behind the headlines, the agony and courage in defence of the West that you don't often see reported in the mainstream media.
Last night, the Russians fired 347 drones and missiles at Ukraine, of which about 200 were Iranian-made Shahed drones, highlighting the global significance of this conflict and its importance to the West.
To kick us off, we're joined here in the wonderful Channel 24 studio by Colonel Ruslan Miroshnichenko, widely known by his military call sign Santa, who has made it his life's mission to form and lead international volunteers into action in Ukraine.
Santa formed the 2nd International Legion of Defence of Ukraine in 2022 and served as its commander until November 2024. The Legion has seen action in many key areas. Its most famous, intense and bloody battle was in the Serebriansky Forest, where the International Legion held a kilometre-long line of defence for a year in 2022, losing many men but inflicting far greater casualties on the Russians.
Later in the episode, we'll be joined by Georgi Tiki, a former war correspondent who was almost killed while embedded with the Ukrainian troops during the savage Battle of Ilovaisk at the start of hostilities in 2014. He's now a diplomat working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
On Tuesday, the actual anniversary of the invasion, Andrew and I went live on Substack to answer questions from our paid subscribers from here in Kyiv. These monthly conversations are only available to those who have signed up. If you're a paid subscriber and you missed it, or if you'd like to become a paid subscriber, visit thebrinkpodcast.substack.com. For the price of a coffee a month, you can become part of the conversation.
If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it, and please do leave a comment, as we love to know what you think. And if you're listening on audio, give the podcast 5 stars. And as Jake said, if you're still hitting that regrettable paywall, now would be a great time to subscribe.
Now, without further ado, let's begin by speaking to Colonel Ruslan Miroshnichenko, otherwise known as Santa, from Kyiv on the Brink. Santa, welcome.
Hi, afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So you became the brains behind this international legion. You've worked with international volunteers, 750 of them, as I understand, for a long time. Tell us about what that was like, how that came to be, and what it was like commanding international troops in the field.
Let me clarify this. If you remember, and the audience is aware about the famous Zelensky speech, the president of Ukraine speech on 27th of February, if I'm not mistaken. So he literally invited foreign volunteer fighters to join our fight against Russian aggression.
So who are your soldiers? Where do they come from? What age ranges are they? Are they former military from other countries, or are they all civilians coming through? Tell us a bit about what made up your units.
Bearing this in mind, we didn't have any time for the training. So that's why the priority was given to ex-militaries, preferably with combat experience. So to be able to spend a month, not more, for interoperability, operability, coherence, this process, etc., to build and to form and shape the unit, and to send this unit to the front line. And we talk about the first International Legion, which was formed within the enormously short period of time. So the battalion size unit, almost battalion size unit, around 400, I guess, 400 if I'm not mistaken, was formed within months and sent to and deployed to Kharkiv, counter-offensive operation. So the first battle for the first Legion was in Kharkiv. Then
and they went straight into the assaults on the counter-attack.
Yeah, all, you as, can I say that you're ex-military?
You can, yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so you understand that, what does it mean, to be part of the counter-offensive operation. So you should kick them out, you should develop the defense line, you should keep it, it's...
and these were men from how many countries, would you say, in the first, first unit?
We can, roughly, we can speak about 30, 40 countries, up to 40.
Wow.
Well, Commonwealth, Brits and Commonwealth community.
Americans.
Countries, Americans, Latin Americans, all Europeans, let's say all Europeans.
Few Israelis.
We have few guys from Israel, from even Bangladesh, India. I had very talented young Indian medics. Yeah, we had people from Belarus. Lots of guys from Belarus. They are former protesters who protested against the Lukashenko regime in 2020. So, and immediately they joined the fight.
Right.
Lots of Georgians. Lots of Georgians. And Georgians, they participate in this war since 2014. You heard about famous Georgian National Legion. So these guys, they immediately joined the International Legion.
They're communicating in English or other languages?
The language is the challenge. Yeah,
Right.
of course. The language is the challenge. The management for, the command and control, must be done in English. But, very few Georgians were able to communicate English. That's why we were forming separate companies within the battalion, formed on the language basis. Having, for example, my legion as an example, my Alpha company was formed with former Soviet Union, Warsaw Pact representatives, Poles, Belarusians, Georgians, Azerbaijanians, Ukrainians, of course, to have their working and operational language Russian.
Right.
Not Ukrainian, Russian. Yes, and of course, and surprisingly, these volunteers were eager to learn Ukrainian. And they were asking me, Commander, stop speaking with us this bloody Russian language. So we switched to Ukrainian at some time. It was kind of a mixture.
Can you tell us about their motivation? Because obviously if you're Ukrainian, you have a strong motivation because it's your home, it's your land, it's your people. These are people from other countries. Were they equally as brave, more brave, less? I mean, how did their motivation work fighting for another country, as it were?
Well, definitely not money. If you speak especially about the first wave of volunteers, from Commonwealth, European, American countries, so not an issue. I knew, my brothers in arms, from these countries who sold their businesses, sold their apartments, left their prestigious, job places, in international corporations, etc. So, and
Committed.
yeah, and they just left it. And joined our fight, joined our units, etc. So, by the way, at the very beginning, the legislation was in the very baby born phase, at the very so it was just at the started to be developed, terms and conditions for the service. There was a decree by the president dated 2016, issued especially for the foreign volunteers, but the implementation instruments were not introduced yet, and they started to be introduced in the beginning of the 2022, actually. So I'm coming to the point that there were two main questions for the foreign fighter: where's my weapon? Where's the enemy? Only later on, they were asking questions like, well, what about, our status first, not even money, the status, the combatant status, to have some kind of social security, legal security. It was important, to be issued with a military ID, of course, payment, etc. So it means that money definitely wasn't the motivation for guys.
So what was it?
The modern society is rather cynical. But, they are trying, and it's natural, so we're trying to find a rational explanation, why? Why are you doing this crazy stuff, I tell you guys, we are bloody idealists here in Ukraine. We fight the existential war, and these breeds, Americans, Indians, Australians, New Zealanders, Brazilians, Colombians, etc., Poles, Lithuanians, and just name it. They came to help. Simple as that.
And some gave their lives.
Motivation, they saw this TV reports, about absolutely unacceptable, nasty stuff about war crimes done by Russians in Irpin, in Bucha, in Gostomel, and in other towns and villages of Ukraine. And our foreign friends, they just simply couldn't stay apart, from, and this is what driven them to join us. Is it the answer to your question?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. And I think people watching at home would be interested in knowing what it's actually like on the front lines of Ukraine, because I was out here last summer with a Royal Marine friend of mine. We went down south of Zaporizhia, we went down towards Pokrovsk. So we saw like a battalion, but we didn't get that far forward to the fighting. And we came back and we said, we're both multiple veterans of Afghanistan, and we said, we've never seen war. This is war. What we saw was policing at best, whereas this is a real war. And the war was developed, hasn't it? It was sort of the initial Russian attack, and there was trenches. Now it's like strong points and fields of drones. But what's it actually like on the front line for your troops? How would you describe it to people at home who can't really think of what it must be like?
Let me start with the specifics of the modern warfare, if you will, because, we can simplify my reply with bloody, dirty, freezy, etc., but it would be primitive answer to your question. Well, let me, start with a conversation with U.S. Marine veteran with 15 years service experience, we had this chat in Lysychansk. We were having our trenches on eastern south vicinities of Lysychansk town, and every day we were under the heavy artillery fire. And those days we didn't have the proper counter battery capabilities. Also, those days we didn't have proper anti-drone capabilities, even UAV capabilities. So, and Russians actively used their Arlans, their operational wings, for their artillery coordination. So, more than 500 meters, up to 1,000 meters on the top.
So it's like the drones are spotting for the artillery effectively.
And you feel yourself like, on the very empty and not secure place,
No cover.
No cover, realizing that, once you're spotted, you will be immediately hit by, everything. So bearing all this in mind, and plus aviation. Before Lysychansk, I never saw two Sukhoi, dropping, bombs to their living quarters, So, and in this combination, well, this American gentleman asked me the simple question, Commander, where is fucking our fire support?
Mm.
And my reply was like, hey, you've been to Afghanistan, yeah? Haven't you? Yes, sir. You fought Taliban, yes? Yes, sir. Now you're fucking Taliban. That's it.
The tables are turned.
Yes, and
badly
he
equipped,
decided to leave the unit, and we kept our positions with amateurs. You remember the Murphy Law?
Mm.
Be afraid of amateurs. Yeah, yeah. The world is full of amateurs. Yeah. So, and I was keeping these positions with former, enthusiasts who were saving trees in Brazilian forests, or alpinists, etc.
I wanted to ask you about the amateurs, because when we came into to Kyiv by train, it's the sleeper train overnight, somebody who was sharing the cabin with us was coming to a funeral for a young British man, Mancunian from Manchester, who died. He was 23 years old, no military experience, came here, was trained, sent to the front, killed within 10 days.
Yeah.
Were there a lot of people like that? I mean, how can you turn an amateur into a soldier so quickly to defend Ukraine?
When you have a month's limited term to form the unit, when you have restrictions to accept only professionals, but at the same time you don't have any legal restrictions to accept any volunteer who willing to fight, so you do your best to give the opportunity to provide conditions for the training, and you realize you can't keep him. I tried, trust me. I tried to, several times to send away, the 18 or 20 years boy, from UK or United States or from Belarus, or even from Ukraine.
Because you're worried about them.
Yes. Yeah, I tried. It resulted they joined the unit, for example, anyway, so they start to travel, throughout Ukraine and searching for the unit who could accept them. Not every military commander that selective, let's say, in terms of potential human power. You understand what I'm trying to say?
It's about numbers.
It's about numbers, yeah. At some point, I realized that, okay, that's it, it be me who would take the responsibility for this guy. I'll do my best to train him, and to create conditions to at least minimize, losses, etc. You mentioned Serebriansky Forest. For 13 months, being precise, we held a line 1 kilometer 300 meters wide, almost a kilometer and a half. Gradually developing the line. We started in June 2023 with one trench, and in May next year we had a line almost. Our losses, killed in action, were 26 by the end. Having this line, having 2 rotation teams of the company size, because we had rotations every 3 days. And of course, it bears logistic challenges, etc. But you must do rotations, otherwise your guys will be exhausted. And we did it. And we did it safely. Only infiltration phase and outfiltration phase, etc. Despite all challenges, despite all FPVs, etc. So we made it. So it is the commander's responsibility to be as well, to be a conductor of the orchestra, to be as sophisticated as possible, to minimize losses. Yeah. Yes, if you ask me the question, did I recruit non-experienced guys? Yes, I did. Sometimes I did. Yeah, well, unfortunately, we were and we are not in the idealistic world and not in the ideal world. And the war is going on there, and the shortage of man is the issue, and was the issue, especially those days. So yeah, but guys learn quickly, and this is your responsibility as a commander, to have proper instructors with the same values as you have.
Yeah. I mean, on the Russian side, they're just throwing anybody from North Koreans, prisoners, people who have terminal diseases, very poor kids.
This is the
everyone
key
into the meat grinder. Yeah.
They send, we lead.
Yeah.
And sometimes, foreigners, if we speak about international units, the initiative goes, from foreigners, and I, sometimes I was at the situation that, hey, hold your horses, as, our boxer said, yeah? Yeah. Because, well, it's all about, it's all about planning, pre-planning, reconnaissance, intel, etc. Yeah.
Did you capture Russians?
Yes, I did.
And how did they...
No, not me. My boys did.
Your boys did?
Yeah.
How did they come across to you, the Russian soldiers that you captured?
It's a funny story. Yeah, okay. Our first prisoner of war was captured by an accident. It was like 3:40 in the morning. And the guy on the watch, the second number of my sniper team, he saw the silhouette, approaching his position. And he pushed, he awakened the first number.
What nationality is this guy?
Georgian.
Georgian.
And he awakened his boss, his sniper. He's Ukrainian, call sign Hulk. Fantastic guy, fighting since 2014 in extraordinary sniper. And he got awakened. And this guy at the same time, he was keeping moving, towards their positions. And at the moment Hulk got awakened, the distance was, and he understood the distance like 30 meters. And he told me later on, explaining his motive to save his life, the life of Russian. So it's, the matter of honor. Do not kill a guy at such, distance. I'm a sniper.
It's so close.
It's so close. No, it's unprofessional. This was only the reason, this guy survived, actually, And the Russian approached. Guess what was the name of this Russian? Just guess.
Vladimir.
No, second time. Russian, typical name.
Ivan.
Yes. Yeah. We made jokes about this. Well, the first captured Russian.
And who was this guy?
Of course, Russian. Of course, Ivan. Of course, Ivan.
And was he lost or was he surrendering? Or?
He was drunk.
Amazing.
Yeah, he was looking for water. He lost in the forest, and he was shouting, "Guys, I need some water!" And Hulk told him, "Hey, come, you will have plenty of water." Yeah, and he just, the Russian approached the trench, jumped in the trench, very friendly, he was released from his weapon, very friendly, very smoothly. He didn't realize where he is, actually.
He's that drunk.
Having very heavy hangover.
Wow.
And was he an experienced soldier, this guy? Or was he just a conscript from somewhere?
Mobilized, conscript, 36 years old from Tyumen, unemployed, captured by mobilization, sent to the front line as a gunmate, and we felt sorry about him.
I mean, this is the meat grinder. This is what they call the meat grinder.
Yes, exactly. And we just, he had some food. We given him some sandwiches, whatever, and it was November. It was November 2023. Yeah. And I got a report from the line commander, so I jumped to my pickup and came to the line, took his, to this Russian and bring him to the brigade commander, for interviewing, etc. A week after, we had another one captured by our Azerbaijani team leader. Yeah, the same story, absolutely.
So I suppose against these kind of enemy, even an amateur from Manchester or from Milwaukee or from Tel Aviv or from wherever, I mean, Tel Aviv, they're not going to be amateurs because they've been in the army, but even an amateur is going to be useful against Russians who, no? Is that not the case? Is that an amateur's question? Get the sense it's an amateur question.
We have very fast-learning enemy. Number one. Number two, if you speak about Serebriansky Forest, there were two categories of soldiers, so-called diggers and fighters. So diggers were on the watch. Diggers were developing trenches. Diggers, were sacrificed, but fighters, they were doing assaults,
Is this the Russian side or the Ukrainian? The Russian side, right?
The Russian
Got it.
side. Yeah, speaking about Russian side, yeah. And those two prisoners, they were like the first category.
Diggers.
So just diggers, no military experience, not tactically properly trained, etc. But we faced pretty well trained and pretty motivated assault teams. Yeah, the commander, my opponent from other sides, call sign Titer. At some point we joked like, well, let's trade Titer, maybe propose some money, to have Titer on our side. Good commander. As a soldier, and you understand what I'm saying, you must respect your enemy. At the moment you show, you underestimate your enemy, you lose. So this is not about respecting. This is about estimating properly and understanding that they are not fools, etc. Yeah, and you have to be well prepared.
Right.
So this is your opponent.
Yeah.
This is your enemy. This is the fight. This is the competition. This is the competition of strength, their intellect, technologies, everything, etc. So.
And how did you know who the enemy commander was? Was there exchange of messages between the lines?
Electronic warfare.
It came from intelligence, yeah?
Electronic warfare. Well, at the beginning, Russian used Boafengs. It's easy to go to the market to buy Boafeng and to listen to them.
Okay.
What's Boafeng?
It's a radio,
It's
Chinese.
a personal role radio.
Chinese radio, yeah. The challenge becomes when they use, encrypted Motorola's, etc. And for that we have electronic warfare. My unit was supported with GUR, electronic warfare units, which actually, thanks to them, helped me to survive and to have my boys survived, because at least 24 hours prior the assault, I had the Russian com exchange between their commanders and units. So, and we decoded this. So, and I understood their code. I had my code tables, and I had the code tables of Russians provided by them for my positions. You understand? Yes. They go right mean they go left.
Yeah.
They go. Yeah. You understand what I mean? Yeah. And of course, which required me. They are not idiots. They also have their own electronic warfare. Change the table. Change your codes. Yes, and to confuse the enemy, this is the game. Yeah, this is all about cheating, and confusing the enemy by all means.
I wondered about the families of the soldiers who you lost. Did you have any communication with them, whether it's in the UK or another country? Bereaved families, and did they understand?
Not with all families, but there are some families I keep communication, and this is the duty of the commander. Yeah, so to have the com with them, to support them. So on my Facebook, for example, even by messenger, I receive time from time some messages from wives and relatives of fallen Colombian guys.
Right. Because to them, their son or their husband has a strong motivation for Ukraine, but it's different for them, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's so, let's say, it's so important, to understand that, and it's actually touchy and very emotional, to realize how the family who lost their son support his values.
Right.
This is very, I give you an example. I'm on Facebook friendship with the mother of Australian soldier who lost his life in this war. And, the way she remembers, she posts, his pictures, etc. And, well, there are no curses, and the way her rhetorics, the way she speaks, the way she remembers, she's proud of him. And, well, it means a lot for me, for my boys and girls, yeah. And in the center of Kyiv, on the Maidan Square, Independence Square, we have a famous memorial for lost soldiers. And we have our part there. There is a memorial for the Second Legion. There is a memorial for the First Legion. So every unit of Ukraine Armed Forces and National Guard, they have their parts, piece of this memorial with pictures of fallen brothers and sisters.
And in fact, we're going to be doing some recording there as well later.
Yes,
today.
If you have time while you're here, so I can, I can show you this memorial. So we will.
Okay, well, Santa, thank you for joining us. Thank you for looking after so many soldiers and for all the amazing things you do for Ukraine and for the West. Thank you for joining us on The Brink.
My honor. Yeah, thank you.
So, Georgi, welcome to The Brink.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
So we just spoke to Santa about the military aspects of the war, and I think it very much leads on to that to talk to you about the political and the statecraft aspects of where we're at. And Jake and I were just discussing the casualty figures this morning, and they really are mind-blowing when you see them written down. 15,000 civilians killed, 40,000 civilians wounded, 55,000 soldiers killed, 63,000 soldiers missing. And that's just the Ukrainian side. And of course, well over 1 million casualties on the Russian side, and absolutely unthinkable figures. What's your sense on where this war is going? And do you think it will come to a negotiated conclusion, or do you think it will keep going the way it is?
First of all, I think it's important to remind the figures because it both shows the horrific toll that the war had on the Ukrainian society, and it's really very difficult. Probably every family in this country has been touched by the war and burnt by the war, or either lost someone, or has someone serving, or had their property damaged. So it's incredibly painful for Ukraine to endure 4 years of such a high-intensity, full-scale war. But also the numbers on the Russian side, they are staggering. This is not just Ukrainian figures. This is proven by independent research that they have 1.2 million, 1.3 million killed and wounded in action, so out of the battlefield. And any army in this world would have stopped at this point. No army would have endured such a number of losses. It's just unsustainable. And if you look at what they have achieved with this number of losses, this is not a war won, this is a war lost on the Russian side. This is a complete strategic and not strategic failure for Putin. He has not captured a single additional regional center in Ukraine. So he had how many? Like three regional centers captured: Crimea, Donetsk and Lugansk, and still the same. after such casualties and 4 years of full-scale wars. This is complete disaster and failure for Putin. If you look at the broader picture, of course, they are crawling now on the battlefield, like very slowly and a very high cost, something like 200 soldiers killed and wounded per 1 square kilometer. This is insane.
We were talking earlier about World War II. The Russians managed to kick the Nazis out almost from Moscow all the way out of the country in about 4 years and win the war. I mean, that's a dramatic victory. By comparison, this is just pathetic, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The Ukrainians fought back then in the ranks of the Red Army, millions of Ukrainians, by the way, and great soldiers. My grandfather fought in the ranks of the Red Army. He was badly wounded under the Stalingrad, and then he was an ordinary, what do you call it, like communications officer on the field, and he barely survived. But it's probably not very correct to compare right now because that was a defensive war when the Soviet Union was defending from the Third Reich, while now this is a war of aggression and a war of choice for Putin in the end. So it's only his imperial frenzy and madness that drives this forward. It has absolutely no perspectives for Russia, despite what his generals are telling him probably. But he still tries to keep this going forward.
And just to be absolutely clear, back then they were fighting Nazis. Now they're not fighting Nazis, fighting Ukrainians.
No matter what they try and pretend.
But you're right to bring this up because this is part of their myth. They're trying to draw these parallels, insane parallels, completely out of touch with reality. But they're trying to motivate their people by this cult of the victory in World War II, which they try to privatize. And this is deeply humiliating to the Ukrainians, by the way, because millions of our people fought in this war. But they're trying to monopolize this. This is this history is very complicated. So anyway, go down to it. But coming back to our topic, of course, there is a peace process going on, led by the United States. And for Ukraine, a negotiated diplomatic solution would be a priority always. If we could stop this war tomorrow by diplomatic means, we would do that. And we would try to chase every opportunity to do that. But, and by the way, we agreed to many constructive steps over this year, a ceasefire, considering some various doable, steps in the peace process. But unfortunately, on the Russian side, we can only see, ultimatums, maximalist demands, demanding Ukraine to withdraw unilaterally from parts of its territory. So all of these things that are unacceptable, and they just show that Russians want to prolong the war. They don't want to seek a real doable solution. And before we reach that point, I think we need to much more pressure on Russia, of course, coming from the United States, from the European partners. And with this economic and military pressure, we can push them into the point where they are ready to actually end the war, not put forward ultimatums.
Yeah, and do you think at this point Washington is still useful? They're not an obstacle to peace? You think they're a useful player in this diplomatic game?
Yeah, we have Americans engaged in the peace process very actively throughout the last year and this year. And in my opinion, this is a rather positive thing because Russians only respect the Americans when it comes to peace negotiations and so on and so forth, not to undermine the strengths and the support coming from our European allies, which is incredibly important, and the United Kingdom, of course. But it's just the Russian mentality. They want to have, the President of the United States at the table and discuss with him, draw the map of Europe and borders there and so on and so forth. This is a kind of inferiority complex that the Russians have and Putin has, of course. So we understand that probably President Trump and the United States is the only, power that can force Moscow to actually agree to something and end the war.
But an engaged America is one thing, but an engaged America under Biden was very different to an engaged America under Trump. And since Trump has taken over, we've seen your president humiliated in the Oval Office. We've seen intelligence sharing stopped, costing Ukrainian lives. We've seen American aid stopped, costing Ukrainian lives. We've seen American air defenses stopped, costing Ukrainian lives. Do you really see the Americans as a partner in this or as a partner for the other side? If you've been enjoying the conversation so far, don't panic. To catch the rest of the episode, just head over to our Substack at thebrinkpodcast.co.uk.